early days of yours define what you are at a later date. For long term, people come to us as financial doctors. In investment, preservation is first principles.
But what is the best thing that you as a common man can experience is food.
Correct.
Which is why I spend on food.
I'll say start investing at the earliest in equities.
Hi, my name is Sarthak Ahuja. I'm a chartered accountant and an investment banker. And when One Finance told me about their concept of money signs, which is they identified 8 different types of personalities and how all of their relationship with money differs or changes, I was quite excited to meet 8 different people and actually validate for myself whether they fit their identified money sign or not. Money signs are in the form of a persistent horse, an enlightened whale. I myself discovered myself to be a virtuous elephant. And when I was reading about the characteristics of these money signs, I figured that an enlightened whale is actually supposed to be the most calm when it comes to financial investments and personal finance. So I wasn't expecting a calm person to be a part of capital markets and startup investing. So when Bhavya Shah, today's guest, was brought into the room and introduced to me as the Enlightened Whale, I was quite excited for this conversation. And with this, we welcome Bhavya to the room. Hi Bhavya, so happy to have you for this discussion today.
Thank you, Sarthak. It's a pleasure to be hosted here. Thank you.
Awesome. So Bhavya, tell us something about your early life, like what kind of childhood have you had? What was it like growing up? Which city did you grow up in?
So I am a Mumbaikar by heart and have been, I studied, worked, and in fact enjoyed most of my journey till now in Mumbai. Completed my graduation in engineering and post-graduation in MBA after having a short stint as a software engineer. You are always forced by your parents to decide something in your career, and initial part of your career is determined by them, later part is determined by you. Same goes for me. So
okay, so what profession were your parents in and how did they influence you choosing your career?
Yeah, so my family business is as a typical Gujarati family, and we were in selling of cloths wholesale, but that was quite boring for me to kind of take it up. Wanted to build a business which is having more service oriented kind of outlook. Later on, I realized that thing. I was just not having that visibility when I started off in my earlier part of the career. Engineer because I loved maths a lot, and there were 2 choices once you choose science. After that, to choose either medical or engineering, like a 2 siloed families, always everyone has that, and I was no different from there. So chose electronics and telecommunication. Back in 2002, I joined engineering college, and since then, for 4 years, I studied engineering. So,
So, it's also said that your childhood environment affects your relationship with money to a great deal, even when you grow up. So, even when your scale of earning may possibly change, in the future, while you may have more money to spend and you would also be spending it, but your actual relationship with money at a very basic or first principles level is defined in your childhood.
Right.
Do you think there were any instances in your childhood where there was something that really hit you or stuck with you? It could possibly be about a relative making more money or less money, or seeing an abundance of money in some way, or a lack thereof, which probably gave you certain ideas where you thought, okay, this is a principle about money that I need to follow in my life.
I'll say certain portion is right, and early days of yours define what you are at a later date. However, as you, if your wallet size increases, you change your spending patterns based on that, correct? I know I drew 17,000 rupees as my first salary when I joined Mastech. And maybe, I don't want to give out a current number, but I make decent money for myself now. So I don't care much about taking higher risks, or even the incremental value for that particular number doesn't change much from where I am and what I was earning. At that time, increment of 10-20% also was defining moment for you. I'll also go one step back. Maybe during my childhood, yes, our family had financial crisis, I'll say. My father expired long time back. So when I was 6 years old, my father expired, and since then, like there were some disturbances at my family level. So yes, education was a clear-cut direction for me to scale myself and for my betterment of my family. And later on, once you reach to a certain milestone, you start feeling, yes, the things which I did in past was very much right for my future. And I'll continue to kind of be more thoughtful about things, and that goes in your decision making for making money or investing also, which is my profession right now.
So do you think there's a gap in terms of how educated people are in India, or how much effort is being made towards educate them on personal finance? Is there a gap there?
I feel yes, on insurance side, at least on life and term. People tend to buy wrong policies. They are being missold, ULIPs and whatnot policies. They are not being informed about what are the problems which you cannot be covering through that product. And they tend to at times overbuy. Sometimes even like a 20-year plan, it's very difficult to predict a cash flow mismatch at some point in time. So there are new products coming up in market where you can finance your insurance policy also going forward. Say you bought a 20-year term plan, or you bought a normal annuity scheme of insurance, and your kid is now going for term plan will not return you any money, but there are some term plans where you will still get your principal money back. So there are multiple products which are coming out in market, and the plan which is providing you, say, capital appreciation and protection, that plan I'm referring to. So you can say after 15th year your kid is going to masters and it's a liquidity event requirement for your family. You can finance your insurance policy using those products. So market is evolving. Digitization of insurance becomes one of the levers for such products to be bought by people. And I believe that another, like as we have seen, larger economies believe in insurance as a product and are being kind of properly covered, at least to a certain extent. I'll not say that they are also properly covered to that extent what the ideal number should be.
You mentioned mis-selling, and I know you're a part of the capital markets in the finance industry, where not just investing in equities, I know of your exposure in certain startups as well. So do you think, being so closely associated with the finance industry, you've probably been able to safeguard yourself from mis-selling, but have you experienced mis-selling around you closely? Have you seen that happen?
Yes. And which is why people tend to call, like you visit a doctor when you have any problem, correct? Or at least before you want to take certain medicines for long term. People come to us as financial doctors and speak to us that should I be investing in this particular company or invest in a mutual fund? And based on the risk appetite, we tend to at least advise to our friends or whosoever is reaching out to us that kindly go for this allocation, not go for a direct allocation, because if you are not directly linked to market, any unforeseen event may disrupt your lifetime savings until that point, and you may have to restart from there, or maybe have a dip in your principal amount. So a simple principle for investment which I follow is that never let your principal drop out, and that's my rule number 2, like never let that principal drop out anytime. So your principal should be always protected, because returns is more a function of how much capital you have. If you are not deploying so much capital, your returns are not going to come out from there.
So you mean for financial well-being, as per you, between the goals of capital appreciation or wealth increment and wealth preservation, you will prioritize wealth preservation?
Preservation is the first principle, always. In investment, preservation is first principles. and then maybe you can keep on compounding on that, or maybe find out an alpha story on that. Like people talk about startups, and I invest in such kind of companies. Also, we invest in private equity style investments also. Our objective is that if you are losing money in one company, you have to double the hard work to make money in the another company. So it's too much of a problem if you lose principal in one company, and you tend to take more concentrated bets. So my job has taught me to take, like in my current portfolio, I'll not have more than 10 stocks in a sizable portfolio which I carry. So there are principles which I follow for my fund and for myself also, and those become your decision making algorithms.
So you mentioned for your clients you do a risk assessment and you try to advise products basis what is their risk appetite.
Correct.
So what is the process that you think your organization currently follows?
So we tend to, like say, we do not manage entire wealth of of a client, or maybe most of our investors are sophisticated financial institutions. Just to give a name, like US largest investment bank and an investment firm is one of our clients. Korea's largest financial services company is also one of our clients, and many such kind of financial institutions we manage certain portion of their capital. So, and we tend to invest into mature set of companies, as I have invested in some of the popular companies in India like Swiggy, Ola, Byju's, Daily Hunt, and in my past avatar I had invested in Car Dekho, Cash Free, Big Basket, and many others. So you can consider it's the top quality index, tech index is where I have invested in, and even Zomato. So I've missed on investing in Nykaa. That was one of the best assets to own, but like there are certain always misses in your portfolio.
So you mentioned a bunch of startups where you're probably in as investor.
So sorry, covering up on the point which we discussed was on, like, if you invest in a particular company, if that company goes bust, we lose our principal amount also, and we have to recoup the returns on top of it. I personally invested, the question you asked, on some of the early stage companies and late stage companies also.
Okay, so when you talk of investing in startups, you've mentioned a few names which are now publicly known as possibly successful startups because of the sheer scale that they've achieved. But I'm sure to identify such startups, there would be at least 90% of before that, where you've probably lost money. Is that true in your case as well, or you think there has been a Midas touch?
So at fund level, we have not lost in any of our companies until now, wood touch, and which is what I am referring to you about. These are first principles we followed at Mirasset or at Arc Impact, where I am currently working with. We never like to lose our principle, and we stick to our principles always. So if you lose money there, the compounding, like I may have made maybe 15% return in certain company, which is the least which we have made. And in certain companies, we have made 3-4x in 1-2 years also. So it is more a function of where we entered and how did we, like the market gave a heads up to that particular company later on after we invested in that. What I will suggest over here is that these are my traits, may not be kind of same traits for any other fund or a investor, because they tend to have their own set of rules or their thoughts to invest in, and I'm a person who believes in this. So
okay, so are there other people within your family who've gone through the same experience, but you think they have a different philosophy when it comes to investing in finance?
Yes, people have different philosophies.
And can you give us some personal examples, if at all?
Yes. So speak to my sister. She completed her MBA, CFA, FRM, engineer. See, copycat of mine, but better copy. Like she completed 2 more courses beyond that. But she seems to be not taking equity bets right now. Earlier she used to take bets. These are all bets, I'll say. Okay, although we call investments, but these are outcomes which you are not knowing today. We take very informed call based on our evaluation of a company and a sector tailwind. So if your sector tailwinds are right, and one of the companies in that sector which you have chosen is right, you tend to make money. That's the simple way of evaluating a story. So my sister will never invest in equities right now because as a family I have taken like 100% of my portfolio on equities, and she is investing in debt, slowly compounding. I say, why waste money there? Give it to me. I'll make more money for you over there. So, but no, it's good way to balance it off, to hedge against any downfall or any event happens, if it happens globally to your portfolio.
Okay, so I have a question for you. You mentioned that 100% of your holdings are in equity and you would like to keep it like that. But given how much risk there is in equity itself, and when we speak about diversifying, I feel, do you look at asset classes like sneakers as an investment option? Because that's really rising among people who now don't want to invest in crypto because that has kind of blown up in the air, but sneakers is really upcoming. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so there's a company in Korea. Coincidentally, I know about it. So it's called Close, if I'm not wrong, KLOVS, and it's a second-hand marketplace for selling sneakers. Korea's market quite unique, slightly ahead of Asian markets in terms of adoption. Like say Swiggy, Zomato was a trend maybe in 2015 we saw. Over there it was started by back 2010 onwards or even prior to that. So, and many other things like say 5G introduction in Korea was much faster or first in the world compared to India. So, and I'll have some biases because of my past experience working with them. So sneakers is a category which is very nice, but what I feel is that there are fundamental distorted to that particular investment. So one is that it's a fashion category. Fashion keeps on revolving. You always have to clear the inventory, have new trends which are to be identified. You look at Indian listed space and you will find handful of companies which have created wealth in that particular space. So same rule if you apply for unlisted company or a private company, we'll not be able to do kind of good ROI based investment on that as a company.
Okay, so you are saying that on sneakers it's difficult to generate an ROI, maybe because to identify a trend is very difficult.
Correct.
Do you think
identify a trend and consistently perform it. Like you may have identified a trend today, then you reach to a ceiling of 1,000 crore top line and beyond that you cannot scale. Then you stop over there. So 0 to 1,000 crore is a decent growth for you, but beyond that where do you go? So we have seen so many stagnation of brands in India. I'm not giving out names in public domain because we have seen so many names and they stagnate at a certain level and beyond that they never grow.
Okay, so if not sneakers, would you be open to investing in a company like Nike?
Established brands always, yes, but at what price now? The question is price, and we are value buyers over there in a listed space. So if there is value, we definitely can consider. I have not looked at Nike very closely in terms of financials.
Okay, but from an industry standpoint, imagine you haven't looked at Nike, but say if you had to take a bet on a brand like Bata, which is massy, which is fashion, and given how much consumer growth and consumption is growing in a country like India, despite it being a global brand. And imagine we throw valuation out of the picture for the time being, but from a sectoral standpoint, do you think you would take a bet?
See, if I have, so I'll dissect my portfolio into 3 parts maybe. One is a large cap kind of companies which will compound at 15%, give me a alpha over market by 2%, the index return by 2%. I'll invest in Bata kind of stories because they are already trading at 50-60 times price to earning ratio. I have nothing more to, like, can they go to 100 times, then only I'll make a better than market return over there, which was the case for DMart when it got listed, and it continued to outperform markets, although right now it's sluggishing. But what I will recommend is that let's go and look at what we can invest and what I will like to invest in. So let us look at companies which are in software space, and what we have seen current meltdown in US markets of nearly 60-70% wealth erosion, particularly in US listed equities. I feel it's a very good area to invest in. And there are, like, you can yourself compare your time spent on mobile phones and the amount of content which you consume. Both the things are being kind of used, like say AWS, which is the server powering your short videos or long format videos on Netflix, or you'll watch any form of other content. All those is being powered through software, and which is why I'm a strong believer that that business will outperform widely, because your time spent is increasing over there, and that will disproportionately add to the overall GDP. Like say if you are spending $1 today, you will spend at least $3 in another decade or so on tech. So that's my hypothesis and very strong
So basically
belief.
you would bet on habit forming products, is what you're saying? When you're
Yes.
saying if the time spent is increasing
Yes.
and it's adding to money for some asset, that's where
That's
you would...
where I'll invest over there, my money.
If you were asked to enjoy your money, what would you splurge on and be like, this, the kind of happiness I'm getting by spending on this thing is
Buy a
immense.
Ferrari, simple.
Yeah, so Ferraris excite you.
Yeah, very
Yeah?
much.
Okay, what other
Right.
cars?
Bas, that's it.
Yeah, which Ferrari?
Yeah, the red color one. No, I have not got into those details because I want to, as I told you, like for me, ROI is more important on my capital, and I don't care anything about from that. So very straight, and till the time I don't compound 25% each year on my capital, I'm not going to be kind of going elsewhere to deploy capital.
So I normally ask people, what is the biggest asset that you've invested in? For you, my question is, what is the biggest expense you've made which is not an investment?
Expenses travel.
Yeah, so which has been your costliest
Travel.
vacation if you've taken any?
Okay, so maybe to Europe. I don't remember the amounts which I've spent, but yeah, so it was with a family of mine, and we went to Paris and Venice. I know you'll ask a next question on Venice, like why did you go to Venice?
No.
Okay, no, but that was just a thought we had. We wanted to go there, and post that we spent good around a week over there to go around Europe, small places of Europe, I'll say.
You know, this reminds me, there's this one friend of mine who told me last week itself. He's like, when you talk about experiencing the best house, Mr. Ambani can have the best house in the country, and then Mr. Adani could have the second best or the best house in the country. When you speak about cars, a celebrity may have a Ferrari, another may have a Lamborghini, and you probably can't experience the best car. But what is the best thing that you as a common man can experience is food, which is why I spend on food. After all, if Mr. Ambani wants the best South Indian, maybe he likes Sagar Ratna, and if I can afford Sagar Ratna, I'll go and spend on Sagar Ratna. That way I'm having the best food that Mr. Ambani is having, and he can't really top me. Even if he wants gold in his Sona Chandi Chavanprash, I can very well afford it and buy it.
No, food is, yes. So food as a category I did not touch upon. Maybe I thought that more aspirational goods and luxurious goods is what you were referring to. So, and maybe, or maybe I can say that I want to own certain portion of a company, like in X percentage, and that company compounds 10x or 20x since I've invested. I'm not talking about 100x return, which people talk about. I'm happy with 10, 20x return, which is also very high.
Okay. So, tell me that till what point in your life do you see yourself earning? And is there a financial number you have in mind or an age you have in mind that by that point I'll probably earn, after that I'll do something else?
Yeah, that number keeps changing.
Okay.
Every year it keeps on increasing. Like, okay, after reaching to 10 crore, I'm okay. Now I feel, no, 10 crore is so small. Let's move to maybe a 50 crore kind of net worth, and then maybe go for a retirement after that. So that is where now current goal is at 50 crore.
So it's a moving goalpost.
Moving goalpost.
But do you think
Correct.
your goalpost is moving because of what you see of peers around you?
No,
or is
no,
it
it
because
is
of some other part of your life?
No, it is just because of maybe I'll say you want to have more safety for your family. I know 50 crore is a very large number, and if everyone aspires to get that number, then that value becomes redundant, correct? So you just want to be on that top quartile, nothing else.
So imagine next year you actually end up making 50 crores because 3 of your startup investments actually list, and you're able to liquidate and you make that sum, what would you do after that?
Not thought about it right now. But yeah, could be travel a lot. Maybe I'll continue to do what I'm currently doing, but be more aggressive in terms of taking stands, because you will have some risk capital which is left out to be deployed, and you do not have to worry much about, as I told you, like there's something called a safety capital, then you have extra capital, and then you have capital which is of no use. So you want to get into the second layer now.
Okay, very interesting thought. So Bhavya, what's the biggest risk you've taken in life?
Risk? Oh wow! Yeah, listening to someone else for investments.
Yeah. You don't trust anyone else.
No.
No one else.
No. It is your intuition, and you are to be blamed if you make a mistake.
Okay.
Never.
So have you ever taken that risk?
Yeah. See, when you start investing, you always take that mistake. You always are being taking advice from someone, and you invest based on that advice. And once you fail, you realize that okay, this is not the way how you should do it. So
you don't tell us the name, but how did the risk turn out?
So you keep it in your portfolio so that you watch it every day and never make that mistake.
And it's a constant reminder.
Constant reminder that this is a mistake I made. So you do not make that mistake again. So you see, always people talk about stories that this is a thing, this is a thing. But go and look at financials of a business. It's very simple maths. Like if it is a growing business, growing at a 15-20%, a sizable number, improving EBITDA margins, if the valuations are in a range comparable to an industry, go and invest small amount. Like start with 5,000 rupees of investment in a particular idea which you believe in, rather than spending 5,000 on a Starbucks.
Did you take the One Finance MoneySign test?
Yes,
yeah?
I did.
And we figured, I have your report card and I see that you're an Enlightened Whale. And it says that the strengths of an enlightened whale is calmness, which I think has been very evident so far in the discussion. It also says that your strengths are problem solving abilities, and you put in a lot of reason and logic in everything that you do. But in terms of your weaknesses, it says that there could be complacency or tendency to overtrust. Do you think you identify yourself as this persona?
I agree on certain points which you mentioned about, because investments is always, it goes through cycles, and you always have to stay calm during that period of a down cycle or up cycle. Do not get over biased to over invest in up cycle, and don't sell when market is kind of under quite pressure. So I'll not say I am being always, but I practice it a lot to follow the same discipline which I think the sign has thrown through. And on the weakness side, yes, there are certain times where you overtrust certain things. Then the way to hedge it is through discussion with your peers, or maybe your people in the same organization or same fraternity, and get a second opinion about why you are over biased on certain investment idea. And you may be right, but that person will have another opinion, and which may make you feel that this requires a point of hold, like you do not have to invest right now. You may have to wait for a business cycle to restart for that investment. So I feel mixing both the things of taking somebody else's inputs to your decision making, but ultimate decision is yours on your investment. You are just trying to look at things which you had not seen in that investment idea, and take a proper defined view on that opportunity.
So given that now we know your views on being invested in equities and stocks, given your financial background and your professional background and your inclination towards the subject, do you think there are any category of people you would absolutely not recommend equities to?
I'll say start investing at the earliest in equities, because the compounding effect is much higher. You do not take straight equity investment bets, and I'll say do not do derivatives at all. Derivatives are very good for seasoned set of investors. I also do not, I'll say I hedge my portfolio, but I do not play in derivatives, because it can cut you both ways, and once you are cut, you'll not like to enter that asset class. You will always become very risk averse, and go to you investing in fixed deposit, not even in mutual funds. So, or maybe like gold or some very safest form of investment you will go into. So best is to start investing at a very early stage. In fact, I feel I have been very late to invest in equities or start understanding equities. Had I learned it at the age of maybe 10, 12, it would have been much better off. I would have learned a lot by that time and would have taken more better decisions even today.
Thank you, Bhavya. This was an amazing conversation, and we got to know a lot about your experience about life and how you look at investing. So here, this was our enlightened whale, Bhavya Shah, who was, of course, very calm, very calculative, and he has a tendency to overtrust people. With that, I invite you to find out your One Finance money sign and find out what should be your ideal financial relationship as well as behavior towards money.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.